Hello chat, it's me, Kirillite, and today I wanted to talk about the Postdrop of Ergosphere, which sounds like this. So while I'm talking about this, I want to go over just like how this section came about and some of my thoughts on it, because there's some things I want to show. This was an assigned group, and in terms of actually writing the song, we struggled a ton because we just didn't know what we were trying to do. I wanted to make something sort of like Incarnator 00 by Silent Room and N2. Aona has this very gothic sound palette and wanted to do that. Denpelm has what he's good at, but he's a very busy guy, and so it was kind of hard to coordinate with him at first. And Moment was even more busy and showed up occasionally to do their thing. They clutched up when it was necessary, but like it was really hard for us to get a good idea of what we wanted to do. So, before I go over this, I actually want to go over a scrapped section. This is a melody that Aona wrote. And there's more, but I didn't end up orchestrating it. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because, one, I want to give a quick introduction to this is the way I did the orchestration on this song. And two, I want to show just kind of how much of a mess that this was, because then this section was the second melody idea we had, and I just found something that I liked, I latched onto it, and I made an entire minute out of it. Do I regret that? Honestly, yes. I think this is good, but I had wished, knowing how the song turns out now, I had wished I'd done my own composition, and I wish that I had fit into Aona and Denpelm's sound better. But I'm not saying that this was the worst thing that I could have done. So real quick, let's go over the composition here. This is the, it's just the... It's the MIDI file I'm about to play. And for Aona, this was him just putting down notes. And for me, I got sent the MIDI and I went back and I made a bunch of changes to it. Not a bunch, but I made it like work as like a melody that you could actually orchestrate instead of being kind of messy harmonically, which is cool when it's done in the intro, but it's hard to work around. So this is the MIDI we were working around. Hold on. Real quick, going over just like the theory for the nerds out there. D minor major 9, because we have the E on there and the melody hits this E. Then we go to this crazy chord that is sort of C sharp dominant, so C sharp 7, but it has this sharp 4 or sharp 11. And so it's just a really strange chord, but this is feeling like a C sharp 7. Then we have A, F sharp. This is a voicing outline for a D7 chord that goes to G, and then we have E, and then a flat 6 5 back to D. E, B flat, A. So that's what that is in terms of theory. There's a couple motifs that we're hearing, like here, like the da-da-da-da-dun, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. Also, this rhythm is the same both times, and so it's nothing like crazy, but if you're going to analyze it like a music theorist, that's what you're going to end up doing. So, next we have all this. It sounds like this. I got really self-indulgent here. I think Denpelm hated me by the end of it, but I found it really funny, and that's what matters. So this is like as many layers as I could think of. This is a Serum. It's two of them, actually. This is the AU5 Supersaw Killer video. So if you want to know how this was done, look at that. This is the same thing, but it's saw waves instead. It really comes down to what I'm doing with the reverb, which was insanely hard to get right. But that's what this is. It was... Most of the time working on this was spent on like the reverb and delay shaping with this sound. But it's basically just a supersaw. Then we got this guy. There's two guys here, actually. They're both physical modeling bells. They're this reactor. And they're this Serum. This multipass is doing the same thing that we're used to from the part 1 video, but I just turn off the high band. And then we have a bunch of reverb, and then we have a soothe, just cause, and then panch for compression, specifically multiband compression. Don't ask, honestly. I don't know what's going on here. I did this so long ago. I don't know what's going on here. This is upwards compression. I'm removing the lows so that I get rid of the rumble that's in the space of the bass. Then we have more no, this is the same compressor. That's my bad. And then we have this EQ. Cool. Then there's this. This is your stereotypical Reese. This is actually the same Reese that's in the earlier part of the song, but it's a saw wave instead, and it has way more post-processing because I actually struggled a lot to make this sound right. It's the same techniques. Once again, way more post-processing. Without all this, it's... oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. What is this? But yeah, this is how the sound is. And then with all the post-processing you get. Then we got this guy. These are two supersaws. It could not get simpler than that. Yeah, there you go. Right, so this is arpeggiating, and I'm modulating the arpeggiation time, and this is just another supersaw. The thing with supersaws is you have to do a bunch of like really annoying shaping with your EQ to make it sound right. Then we got this guy. Literally a square wave. FL keys. Is this actually an FL keys? No, it's Steinway D. Okay. There you go. So that's the piano, has some compression EQ. And then we got this guy. This guy I intentionally mixed to the front because I want the bell sound. I want this to sound like a bell despite being all like synthetic and weird. And so to do that, I just push this to the front and then I put everything back a little bit. Tubular bell. So that is the whole synthetic layer. And it lacks a lot of power, you know? When you listen to this, you're kind of like, this is not powerful enough. Oh, it's also worth mentioning, I have 3 Vital preset bells from Aona. They sound like this. Also harpsichord, there's this like clock tick, and then there's also another piano. But once again, that kind of lacks power, especially compared to what you hear when you play this. Right, that's like huge, right? And the reason it's so huge is because layered in the back of all of it is the entire orchestra. Also this. That's here, for those of you who don't recognize it. But yeah, I layer the entire orchestra in the back here. So let's talk orchestration. All of the producers here are gonna hate me for a bit because I'm gonna talk like a classical musician here. So we have this A minor major 9, and in particular, I have the brass play the melody here. The reason I do that is because the brass are super powerful, and so I want the like. And so by having the brass played, it's very like heroic, that kind of thing. That's what I was looking for. The reason I didn't also have the strings played the way I do in the second half was because I really wanted these lines to pop out. And what I'm doing here essentially is I'm taking the lines that we already have and I'm doing a mix of both horizontal and vertical writing. You'll see for the violin line, I'm relying a lot on this sort of upwards contour where I'm just navigating through what's the note of the chord that I want to emphasize. So it starts on the 9, which is where the melody starts, and then it goes to the 3rd, which is just kind of a good note to land on. Then we have, I'm hammering the, looks like a G. That's a really strange note to hammer over D. But I'm apparently doing the 11 on top for the tension. And then I go to C, which is also the 11, I think. Right? That's the 11? Yeah, that's the 11. I don't know why that's the 11. I don't know what I'm doing here, but it sounds good. So this is horizontal writing. I'm going up, right? And I just kind of heard the melody of that continually going upward as a build. This is a little bit different because it's actually following the chords. We start on the 7. And then we have this cool moment. I don't know. I just kind of heard it, you know? Especially because I'm echoing that here. But then here, I'm finishing the enclosure. So you get this kind of weird motion here. This probably isn't good orchestration practice, but it sounds good. Right. Then we have this piano. This is playing the bass. In fact, pretty much every instrument is just playing the bass, aside from the ones that I just mentioned. I always will make contrabass the loudest of the bass instruments, and the reason that I do that, 1, is because I like its sound the most, and 2, it layers with electronic stuff the best. Especially if you high pass out the sub, it feels like a very natural continuation on the bass sounds. If I go here, and I throw down the bass, and I turn off this. It gets eaten up by the Reese Bass nicely, especially once I layer in all the other low instruments that I'm doing with it. I'll come back to that in a second. Right, so I just needed my super strong low end, basically. Which is also why the only 2 wind instruments I have are also lows, because I wanted that to be as strong as possible. Now this gets weird. Here for the response, I want the violin to sort of take over the line from the trumpets. It helps it feel new and fresh despite being in the same register, and also it frees up all the space for the low end to be interesting. So I did that. This is a typical 4-part voicing. We have the melody in the soprano range. We have this in the alto range. Hold on. And this just kind of helps fill out the chord. It's not serving a lot of purpose, aside from the fact that if I only had this be 3 voices, it wouldn't really feel full. So I have this fill out that. Nothing too notable. Then we have this in the tenor range, and this is the driving force of the section. And for people who are working with MuseScore, I want you to know that the staccatissimo articulation is carrying the sound here. Right, and then in the bass we have da don da don da don da don da 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 don na na na. And then from there, it's pretty much playing around with the registers and dynamics of each instrument to make it sound good. That's pretty much everything that's going on here. Nothing too notable. Then in this project, what I did is I would change the volume of them manually. So you'll see that this one is like 8 decibels louder. This one is 2 decibels louder. And the reason that I do that is so that I can get the mixing to sound right on the, like, on top of all the electronic stuff. You'll notice this is much heavier than the original. That's just because of the mixing. Yeah, and then this is clipping, or like clicking, and that's because you can see I'm cutting the audio so that I can change the volumes of certain notes. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I wanted this to be super, super loud to set you up for this to take over. Thank you to Aona for all this percussion, by the way. Just super, super nice percussion. It's like exactly what I asked for. Denpelm replaced all this with his own version of it in the final, so I'm not really going to go over that because I think his is better. Then there's also this. And this. Just cause. This is the same audio jam from earlier. And then I just threw a bell on this and a Denpelm growl and a kick drum. And there you go. That's the post drop.